surge in foreigners committing sex offences in Britain can be revealed. The number of foreigners convicted for sex crimes increased by 62%.
There are more than 40,000 predators on the streets. A fresh sexual assault every 7 minutes. 87% of women and children are in danger. The audiences are sick of disregarding Star MA's tolerance. Fathers chanted, "Stop the boats," and called for the reinstatement of the death penalty for gang recruitment at 6:10 p.m. Starmer released a statement. Sexual violence is acknowledged. This calls for ongoing tolerance for minorities and has nothing to do with the criminal's past. The 210,000 sexual victims just didn't give a damn. The migration center was surrounded at 6:23 p.m. As bottles and stones crashed into riot shields, 8 reinforcement teams came. The radio command to stop the mob then arrived. Don't let any of the migrants suffer any injuries. 5 criminals attacked South Birmingham at that precise moment. There are accusations of two-tier hypocrisy against Starmer. You assert that religion and nationality are unimportant. However, those specific details were excluded from the report regarding the Birmingham incident. All of a sudden, the London police provided the answer. Walk in groups, rely on the police, and stay clear of hazardous streets. Both the Star and the Force diligently avoided the source of the issue. 380 illegal immigrants landed on small boats on Sunday alone. Mobs wearing black masks erupted in rage. Officers were captured in a trap at precisely 6:50. Officers were knocked off their feet by fireworks that came from all directions. For more platoons from peaceful areas were sent in. Farage, the head of the opposition, apprehended Starmer. Prisons are 99% filled. Under Starmer's plan, 40,000 offenders were set free. In response, the government pledges to build 14,000 extra prison spaces within 6 years. The country started acting independently. From London to Birmingham, parents reported a red-level threat. Why? A sexual assault occurs every 7 minutes, while a knife attack occurs every 10. School children return home in complete darkness throughout the winter. Currently, about 60% of them are under danger. A counter-protest broke out at 7:10. There are hundreds of flags flying in foreign script. Grooming gangs do not warrant the death penalty, according to a protester in London. You must take these people's cultural norms into consideration, he continued. The mobs were unstoppable. 6 vans were burned, 21 stores were destroyed, and 126 people were arrested. The looting started. What began as a protest by weary fathers turned into complete uncontrollable mayhem. Attorneys declared in dozens of courts, take into account their past. A 7-month decrease is appropriate for the attacker. The explanation was then included. The age of consent is 14 in the nation from where they came. This argument went unnoticed by the thousands of moms demonstrating in Parliament Square. Nigel Farage presented his remedy. 600,000 people were deported to the Middle East and Africa. Starmer said the relocation was not feasible. The demand followed. Take thousands of foreigners out of jails. 60% more capacity is available. Donald Trump implied during a briefing in Washington that he anticipates swift and severe action in Britain. He described London as unrecognizable. He likened the illegal immigration flows to Britain's self-destruction. Starmer also mentioned the Human Rights Act. It prohibits the deportation of hundreds of thousands of people. Leaders in Europe supported Starr's tolerance. Trump made a suggestion that he would revisit Britain's NATO obligations. He offered a remedy. Severe persecution of extreme extremists and suppression of Sharia's encroachment in London. The president used the United States ICE deportation squads as an example. More than 800,000 illegal immigrants were deported from the United States. What about the United Kingdom? Thousands of illegal immigrants have been brought in on small boats under Starmer. Starmer was fully aware of what he was entering. He used to be a British prosecutor. He is the most knowledgeable about the inner workings of crime. The home invasions, the machete attacks, the grooming gangs, and the zombie knives. This is not a man who can claim his lack of experience as an excuse. The claim that he is attempting to comprehend the system is just untrue. Anxiety paralyzes families. Within weeks of being convicted, they witness known pedophiles re-entering their communities. The police force is overburdened. They follow dangerous criminals, but in Whitehall, a bureaucratic edict releases them. There are currently over 40,000 possible repeat assailants out there in the general public without proper monitoring. The deterrence is no longer present. You can tell that the jails are 99% full if you stalk women. You are aware that deportation flights are based on human rights rules if you assault a minor. The criminal underworld has been informed by Starmer that British justice is presently on hold. Instead of securing the border, he decided to let the predator go. Instead of defending the native daughter, he decided to home the foreign national. The nation's current state of disarray is not a coincidence of policy. Experts have been warning for months that women would be directly targeted by the SDS-40 plan. Nevertheless, the government continued to press the button. Nigel Farage is publicizing that fact to the entire globe. In some countries, a woman defends her dignity by carrying pepper spray. The accusation is no longer being whispered by the opposition. From the roofs, they are yelling it. Nigel Farage maintains that the daily incineration of £6 million of taxpayer funds on hotel bills is a calculated political move rather than the result of incompetence. During his candidacy, Keir Starmer made it clear that he would need 10 years to completely accomplish his vision for the nation. Critics contend that the deadline is more about demographic engineering than economic recovery. The arrival lands in Britain, and the math is straightforward and cynical. While British elderly freeze, they are processed, shielded, and kept in heated quarters right away. They are protected from the cost of living catastrophe that destroys the typical family for 5 years. Next comes the passport, which is accompanied by the right to vote. Farage contends that because Starmer is aware that he has lost the present electorate, he is actively importing his future one. The Prime Minister is aware that the traditional working class is prepared to rebel because they feel deceived. He is aware that among those who founded this nation, his approval numbers are declining. The opposition claims that by creating a new dependent class, he is ensuring his survival. This is a shady scheme involving public monies. Each hotel reservation represents a future vote. Every amnesty is bought with loyalty. Starmer is handling more than simply a border issue. He is creating a political safety net for himself. Critics claim that he needs that 10-year window in order to cycle hundreds of thousands of fresh voters into the polls before his term expires. He is placing a wager against the people of Britain. He is betting that the demographic shift will be irreversible by the time the next general election takes place. The government puts the comfort of those who have no right to be here first, while the indigenous population finds it difficult to secure a doctor's appointment. This is the ultimate betrayal of democracy, according to Farage. Because of the weak government, the borders are closed. The government's avarice for power is the reason they are open. A thankful electorate is taking the place of a suspicious one. It's slow-motion election manipulation. The British taxpayer is being made to foot the tab for their own political replacement, which is the most horrible irony. The police in Stars Britain tell her to stroll in groups while she holds a panic alert since she knows that using defensive spray will result in a criminal record. This very betrayal is what is driving the throngs around hotels tonight. They witness a legal system that houses a foreign criminal for £50,000 annually while freezing grandmothers' pensions. It completely reverses the order of importance. Police withdraw from no-go areas because they are constrained by a political system that is more concerned with community strife than criminal activity, not because they lack bravery. The breaking point has been reached. The social compact is broken. The public finally loses it when the government outlaws self-defense and then neglects to maintain street safety. While discussing definitions of intolerance and watching the migration centres burn, Whitehall is totally unaware that British women have come to know they are on their own. The MAPA surveillance system collapsed, self-defense was outlawed, and foreign offenders were not deported. These are not one-off mistakes. They are all of the components that make up a national emergency. Star MA pledged to put an end to violence against women. Rather, he undermined the public's faith in the state's ability to defend them. The leadership of Britain is the only country in the West that thinks advising women to stay away from hazardous locations is a practical security tactic. The turmoil that occurred tonight wasn't isolated. The Home Office possessed unambiguous statistics demonstrating that the early release of thousands of inmates would lead to an increase in sexual offences, that unvetted males were among the boat arrivals, and that prohibiting defensive tools leaves the weak susceptible to the strong. Each and every one of these warning signs was flagged for quick examination. None of these were addressed by Starmer. According to officials, the Prime Minister personally declined to contest the European Court of Human Rights on the grounds that it went against international responsibilities. International commitments. Mobs who are aware that the system has failed are besieging hotels, barricading streets, and smashing police vans. A government that puts a foreign predator's rights ahead of a British child's safety is one that condones the abuse. The threat level for women increased dramatically under Starmer's leadership. Citizens proclaimed a red-level emergency. Whitehall became immobilized by its own tolerance, and police were no longer able to approach entire neighborhoods. A state loses its legitimacy in this way. Not in a single, spectacular loss, but in thousands of attacks that went unreported. Whitehall is able to refute it. It can be spun by Starmer. But in the heat of tonight's inferno, the public realized the truth. Opponents cautioned that those in charge of Britain would sooner imprison a woman for carrying a spray than deport the man pursuing her. The conversation would have been open if the rioters had been requesting green energy. However, Whitehall's first inclination was to condemn the protest rather than find a solution because the violence originated from a public afraid of unbridled predation. At that point, a government begins to serve its ideology rather than its constituents. It was more than a disruption. It served as a last warning and a reminder that the taxpayers who support the system no longer own Britain's streets. Mothers are now more than simply cautionary tales. They are enforcing stringent curfews prior to dusk and installing tracking applications on their daughters' phones. The routine of daily living has been drastically changed by the fear of sexual predation. Desperate families are resorting to illegal alternatives as the police leave high-risk areas. In large cities, underground networks that provide women with illicit pepper sprays have proliferated. To fill the void left by the state, local fathers are setting up unofficial patrols around schools. The public eventually establishes their own order when states spend £6 million a day lodging unscreened boys while grandmothers freeze. This goes beyond simple ineptitude. Many see it as a planned political replacement. Critics contend that in addition to mishandling the border, Starmer is deliberately bringing in new voters in order to maintain his hold on power for the ensuing 10 years. The government thinks it can use passports and hotel rooms to buy loyalty. The anger of the tax-paying class is being underestimated. The authorities' first reaction after a violent attack is to conceal the victim's country and religion. Before being made available to the media, official reports are frequently scrubbed of any mention of cultural background or immigration status. In order to preserve the government's good name, it is frequently concealed if a predator benefits from the SDS-40 early release program. Immediately, the emphasis switches from alerting women to the danger in their midst to averting conflict within the group. Senior officials worry that the far right would gain influence if the demographic patterns of these crimes were made public. Opponents argue that concealing the truth endangers more innocent lives. Vague assertions concerning complex demands are supplied to the public. Public safety is no longer the first priority while the fact of imported crime is removed from the record. Narrative control is what it is. According to Farage, the SDS-40 program is a state-approved betrayal of all the nation's victims. In order to remove foreign offenders, the Reform UK leader is calling for the urgent formation of specialised deportation squads that are modelled after American ICE units. Keir Starmer rejects this approach, claiming that it is legally unfeasible with the current human rights accords. According to Farage, the former director of public prosecutions is well aware of the identities and methods of these grooming groups. He draws attention to the obvious double standard in the administration of justice. The law is unbreakable when a British person protests. The system adapts to a foreign national's cultural background when they commit a major crime. Farage contends that this is a purposeful erosion of national boundaries rather than unintentional carelessness. He presents the refusal to deport as a sign of giving up sovereignty. Economic analysts are increasingly voicing grave concerns.